Hello everyone and a very warm welcome. In today's tutorial, we'll learn how you can convert, watermark and secure files using Nintex Automation Cloud. So here I am in my Nintex Workflow Cloud Designer Canvas. I have already added the extension Muhimbi PDF. Using this extension, you get almost 30 actions which you can use for document manipulation. For this particular scenario, I'm going to convert, watermark and secure the files. But before I go ahead and convert, watermark and secure files, I need to go and configure the trigger or the start event. I'm going to use a trigger and it's going to be a SharePoint trigger, and the event will be when a new item is added to the list. Then I'll select my connection and then I will pass it the URL. So this is the URL of my SharePoint. Here I'll click on retrieve list and then I will select the list that is Nintex demo source. At this point, my trigger or my start event has been configured. Now that my start event has been configured, the next step would be to get the file that has been uploaded. So I'm going to use get a file action and I'll drag and drop it in. Let's configure the get a file action. So again, the connection is set. That's good. The next thing that I want to do is I want to pick it up with the item ID. That looks great as well. The SharePoint URL, I'll just paste it in. Then I'll specify the document library, and the document library is going to be Nintex demo source. The item ID will be the output of the trigger. So I need to go into the start event and I need to specify the ID. And then what I need to do is store the result in a variable. So this is a file variable. I'll name it SP file, SharePoint file, and I'll create the variable and I'll insert the variable. At this point, I have the file from SharePoint and it's stored in a variable. So the next step would be to do the conversion. I'm going to use the Muhimbi convert action to convert the document to PDF. So I have dragged and dropped the convert action. To the convert action, I need to specify a connection. So the connection has been added. Next, what I want to do, I want to specify the source file name. The source file name will be a dynamic variable. And I'll get it from the start event and I'll use the variable name dot and then I'll specify the extension, that is the file type. Now the source file content will be the file that we have captured in the SP file. Next, I need to give it a processed file content. So processed file content is the output of the convert action. So I will give it a name, convert processed file content, and I'll say create. I'll insert this. Similarly, I can give it a base file name as well. So the base file name, I'll again create convert base file name and I'll say create. I'll insert. Similarly, I can do it for the result code. Perfect. So this is how our convert action should look like. At this point, our convert action has been configured correctly. The next step would be to go and add the watermarking action. So I can just drag and drop it here. I can quickly open it. It should pick up the connection. Perfect. The connection has been configured. At this point, I can say insert. I can go to Muhimbi PDF and put in base file name and I can just add it the extension .pdf. The file content would be the processed file content. The font family, I can set it to Arial. The font family, I can set it to Arial. Let's make it a larger font size. I'll also specify the watermarking content or the text that I need to use in the watermark. It can be confidential. That looks good. Font color is okay. Alignment, I'll set it to middle center. Similarly, I can specify a width. Let's say the width is 500 and the height is also 500. Other things are optional. Rotation, I can specify the rotation. Let's rotate it by -45 and other things look good. But we still need to specify the processed file content, right? So what I can do is I can add a variable. I'll say create variable and I'll say watermark. I'll use the initials WM processed file content, right? and I'll insert it here. Similarly, I can use the base file name and the result code and the result details. I can create variables for it, but those are not mandatory. So I'm going to skip that. Next is the final step where I'm going to secure the document. So I'll just drag and drop the secure action. It should pick up the connection automatically. Perfect. So I'll insert the base file name .pdf. Let's specify an open password. Let me specify it as 12345. An owner password as well. I'll specify it 123456. I'll keep the open password and the owner password different. Next, what I want to do is I want to restrict few settings. So what I want to restrict is printing, high resolution printing, content copy, annotations, etc. Should it fail on error? Yes. Next, I'll create a processed file content variable. So I'll create a variable and I'll say secure processed file content. And I'll click on create, insert. I can again optionally create all of this. I would recommend you create it, but this is not mandatory. So I'll leave it out here. Next, what I want to do is I want to write the file back into my SharePoint. So what I'll do is I'll store the file. So I need to store the file and I'll use the SharePoint action. And I'll use the SharePoint action. To this action, I'll select the connection. That's good. And then I'll pass it the file. The file is the output of the Muhembi action, that is secure processed file. I need to specify a SharePoint URL. So I'll copy this in and I will paste it. Then I need to specify the library where I want to store the file. So I want to store the file in the Nintex demo destination. The folder path can be left blank because it can be stored in the root. Do I want to overwrite the file? The answer is yes. And finally, I want to store the result in a variable. So I'll just say that I want to store this result in a PDF file variable and it's of type object, right? Perfect. Now that I have stored the file, the final step would be to rename the file with the actual name. So I can just drag and drop the rename action and here I can configure the connection. It's automatically created. I can say item ID. I can specify the URL out here. I can say retrieve. Then I can click on the drop down and then in Nintex demo destination, this looks good. Finally, I can give it an item ID. So item ID would be the output of the SharePoint PDF file action, item ID, and then I can give it a file name. So the file name can be used is the base file name, convert base file name .pdf. Perfect. At this point, my flow is ready. So I'll save my flow and I'll say Muhembi demo and I'll save it. And I'll publish it as well. Perfect. At this point, I can go to my instances and I can upload a file. This should trigger my Power Automate. So let me click on refresh. So here my Nintex workflow is running. I'll click on it. It seems that it is at the get file stage. So let's wait. The get file has been completed. It's at the convert stage, convert document stage. It's completed, so it looks good. The next step would be adding a watermark. It's completed, it looks good. Securing the file looks good. Now it's trying to store the file back into the SharePoint and it stored the file and it has renamed the file. So this is the source. Let's go to the destination. Perfect. So it has a file. What I can do is I can open this file and quickly check in the browser. It's asking me for a password. It means that it has been secured. And when I click on it, when I type in the password, it tells that it is confidential. When I try to click on print, it doesn't print. That means it has disabled printing as well. I hope this demo was informative. And thank you for your time, and bye bye.